Hey, Michael Solio here. Can you imagine if your AI assistant can remember your past conversations? And not in a creepy way, or a way that harvests all your information and push ads to you, but something that's going to benefit you and personalize interactions with it. That's what we're going to talk about today in today's video. We're going to talk about enhancing your RAG architecture with long-term memory. So a quick overview of the application. We're going to start off by going through a flowchart. We're going to simulate a login. We simulate a login because we need the profile ID. We use this ID to store conversations and long-term memory. After that, we go ahead and prompt for your question. We take that question that is inputted into the system and we get the embeddings. With those embeddings, we send that over to our vector database for content to answer the question. And we also send it over to our long-term memory. If we do have any information in our long-term memory, the information coming back will be more relevant to the question asked. At that point, we do combine our profile information, long-term memory, short-term memory, and all of our Pinecone content and the question itself. We go ahead and send all that information over to ChatGPT to get us the answer. We get back the answer. We do store that into short-term memory. After that, we do save the question and the answer to long-term memory. And then we display the answer. At the end of all of it, when you are finished, you'll type in a keyword there to let us know that the conversation is over. At that point, the conversation will end. We will then summarize the entire short-term memory, meaning the entire conversation that we had, and then save that to long-term memory in our vector database on Pinecone. All right, so this video is going to be kind of a continuation or inspired from two other videos. The other first video that we need to understand was building a RAG architecture, local files, and web data extraction. So the second video is called Enhancing ChatGPT with Long-Term Memory. So we're going to go through this. It does assume that you have seen the other videos or have at least created the vector database for the RAG system. I'm going to go ahead and show the systems that were previously created for us. So in the Pinecone system, the vector database, there is an index called Blades of Grass. And my namespace was long-term memory. So this is the vector database that we will be querying for content. So the Mongo database, same type of thing. The blades of grass have already been created. We're going to go ahead and start off with creating the profile, which is in this section right here. Okay, so that went ahead and created the profile. It prompted me for a couple of information here. So now that the profile is created, we can go ahead and go back to the Mongo system and look into the long-term memory profiles. And you will see now in Mongo, I do have a profile ID with all my information there. So that will link us back to our other stuff. So a quick code walkthrough of the system. It's laid out in one large script so you can easily walk through and understand it. Again, proof of concept, a lot of little modifications you'll need to productionize it. Most of the information is in the main that will simulate your login information, get all your profile data, and then start up your conversation. So that's basically this little section right there. And then the next thing it does is it starts up the actual process of asking the question. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of go ahead and run this process. I'm going to log in with msulio, which was the one we created in the system. So it's going to go ahead and log into the system and then start prompting the question. You'll see here in the dark purple colors, it starts giving you your profile ID and your conversation IDs. This way you can easily check them inside of the Pinecone system and Mongo when you're verifying and QAing all your processes. So now it prompts for the question. Go ahead and get question. You will see that there is an activity timeout. So if there is no activity here and nothing happens, it will go ahead and end the conversation and then store it off so you don't lose your information that you had from your long-term memory. There's a couple of keywords here. If you type in exit, quit, bye, end, done, or thanks, that will actually end the conversation gracefully and then store it off into long-term memory. At the time, we can also look up profiles, long-term memory, short-term memory, and sources. So we'll go through that process also. So who is Michael Sulio? So basically starting out here, it's then going to go through your embeddings. Up here, create your long-term memory or query your long-term memory based on the embedding information, and then send all the information over to Pinecone. So let's go ahead and hit enter. All right, so there you see it did. It did create the embeddings off the ChatGPT. It queried long-term memory for any similarities based on this namespace, which if you can look back is your user profile ID. It did find 5 different matches based on what it did, and then it responded. So let's go ahead and use some of these other keywords that we had here, which were profile. So we type in profile. And this is the profile that we did when we created it, but it actually put it in a like a prompt that gets added to the information we send to ChatGPT. That way ChatGPT does know personal stuff that we put into our profile when he's answering the questions. Long-term memory. I can go ahead and type in long-term memory and it will tell me any type of roles and questions that it did have. If I do short-term memory, same type of thing. What was in my short-term memory, which is only this current conversation. And then the sources. So if you do type in sources, it's going to tell you where it found the information in the vector database to answer these type of questions. So good stuff on that. To ask another question, going to go through, it's going to answer the information of what it is. Again, sources tells me where all the information did come from. And then when you're all done and said and done going through the loop, you can go ahead and end the conversation, which will store it off into their vector database. So there you go. End conversation gives you my conversation ID, stores all the information. It did summarize our entire conversation to 654 characters and stored it into long-term memory with the conversation ID. It did save it off to both systems there. Total conversation talking was 3 minutes and 41 seconds. So let's go ahead and look up in the Mongo system. So this is going to be the Pinecone system where the long-term memory is in, and it's stored in the hippocampus for our long-term memory. Let's see what our profile ID is. Namespace is C8. So let's go ahead and try this namespace here. And this is our basically questions that we've had in long-term memory for this profile, which is the namespace. So the namespace user ID matches this one right here, 6C8, and that's our 6C8. So this will take in all of our information. And again, every conversation we have, it summarizes it. So it shrinks it down a little bit, stores it off. So this way, when we ask questions, it will only return relevant information. Extremely powerful. This system is basically a quick prototype for actually building a virtual AI assistant for companies to answer questions on text messages, in chats, and voice. So this is the start of some of that stuff that you'll be able to utilize to make your businesses more efficient. Thank you very much.